Our gospel lesson this morning is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verses 1 through 23. Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out and to cure every disease and every sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew. James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John. Philip and Bartholomew. Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector. James, son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus. Simon the Cananean, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 sent out with the following instructions. Go nowhere among the Gentiles and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. Cure the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without payment, give without payment. Take no gold or silver or copper in your belts, no bag for your journey, or 2 tunics, or sandals, or a staff, for laborers deserve their food. Whatever town or village you enter, find out who it is that is worthy, and stay there until you leave. As you enter the house, greet it. If the house is not worthy, let your peace come upon it. If your house is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake off the dust from your seat as you leave the home or town. Truly I tell you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah on the day of judgment than for that town. See, I am sending you out like sheep in the midst of wolves. So be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of them, for they will hand you over to councils and flog you in their synagogues. And you will be dragged before governors and kings because of me, as a testimony to them and to the Gentiles. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you at that time. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child, and children will rise against parents and have them put to death, and you will be hated by all because of my name. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to the next. For truly I tell you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. Snakes and doves. There was a time early in my ministry where I naively believed that if you created a really good, catchy sermon title, and you got it posted on the street, on the sign out by the street, people would drive past and say, "Oh, wow, look at that. I need to come." My favorite from those days was called The Grizzly Gospel. It was, of course, the story of the beheading of John the Baptist. Snakes and Doves, a Father's Day sermon. I thought we'd be filled today. Jesus in this story is sending his disciples out to be his ambassadors to help him proclaim that the kingdom of heaven has come near. I imagine they were a bit anxious. I would have been. The individual who had become sort of a father figure to them, if you will, was pushing them out of the nest, encouraging them to spread their wings and fly. So first, Jesus tells them, do not be afraid. Don't be afraid because you have everything you need. You don't need to take money, gold and silver and copper. You don't need more than one change of coats, so don't take 2 tunics. You can leave your staff at home, for you will be safe in my protection. There will be someone who will take you in and feed you and give you shelter. If not, then just move on to the next town. No big deal. Don't be afraid. Do you remember having a talk with your father before moving out of the nest, so to speak, either for college or a job or to get married? If you are like me and have no memory of anything, you have only a vague recollection. My dad didn't talk much, but I'm sure he sat me down before I headed off to college and told me a few things. To save and to spend only what was needed. He was the biggest tightwad in Rock County, Minnesota. I'm sure he advised me to be careful with my money. I'm sure he told me to wear clean clothes, that if I had to do the sniff test on a shirt, it needed to be washed. And I'm sure he told me to be safe, to stay out of the bad parts of town. I was, after all, moving to the big city of St. Paul, Minnesota. I know that you remember me telling you the story from my youth when my father informed me that it meant something to have the name Upsala in the small town where I grew up. So I won't retell it. But just as my dad informed me of what it meant to be an Upsala, so Jesus informs his disciples what the kingdom of heaven looks like. What they should expect that the people they were going to call on would expect in the kingdom of heaven. To be an Upsala meant to stay out of the pool hall, to forego attending movies, to be respectful of elders, and most importantly, to tell the truth. The reason my father and I were having the little talk. The kingdom of heaven looked like a place where the ill were cured, where lepers were cleansed, where people were dispossessed of their demons, and where the dead were raised to newness of life. That's what the people expected, and that was what Jesus commissioned his disciples to do, to make the kingdom of heaven reality. I can't help but wonder what the disciples might have wondered. These were nearly impossible things. Maybe the healing thing, maybe the demon thing, but raising the dead? That was an impossible thing. They must have lacked a bit of confidence, really been frightened that they might fail, would surely fail. The kingdom of heaven was a big deal. It's what Jesus came proclaiming. And Jesus was urging them to take a more active role in disseminating the truth of its reality. And at least to me, Jesus appears to be not as good at pep talks as he is at telling parables to confuse the Pharisees. You're in the locker room getting ready to go out, right? I'm sending you out like sheep into the midst of the wolves. Well, thank you very much, Jesus. Just what I needed to hear to get excited. You will be flogged in the synagogues. You mean even the houses of worship won't be safe? You will be dragged before governors and kings. Bad enough that the religious folks are going to be upset, but now you're telling me that we'll be standing trial before the powers of Rome. Brother will betray brother, and a father his child. And children will rise up against parents and have them put to death. and you will be hated by all. Okay, that's enough, Jesus. You can't really mean that we can't even trust our family, our brothers or sisters, that parents will turn against their children, that we will be hated, and even our fathers will turn against us. Makes one want to get right out there, doesn't it? If that had been what my dad told me, I would have gone right back upstairs to my bedroom, crawled right under the spring and mattress, and would have stayed there until the spring. Sometimes, maybe most of the time, living as if the kingdom of heaven has come near, has already arrived, is a difficult thing to do. To model kingdom living is never easy. It means to live at odds with our neighbors and families. It means living a countercultural kind of life, when everyone else is just floating along, never giving much of a thought for the future. We are to be living in the future. We're to be working on things like wholeness and healing. We are to be speaking truth to power. We are to be welcoming and hospitable. After all, the visitor might be the one proclaiming the kingdom of heaven. And if we shut the door on her or him, we shut the door on our own Lord. We are not to go along to get along. We are to go alone if no one welcomes us. And the way of life that models the reign of God is one that the prophet tells us is to do justice, to love kindness, and to live humbly. None of those three qualities does our culture today tell us are important. Justice, kindness, humility. I'm sure my father would have told me to be smart, to use the brain that God gave me and the common sense that my mother and father instilled in me. I'm sure he would have told me to think first and act second, rather than the other way around. And he would have told me to be innocent, to be a worker for peace. That there are too many things out there that if we participate in, we certainly will lose our innocence. Jesus basically says the same thing. Be wise as snakes and innocent as doves. They seem like opposites, snakes and doves. We think of snakes as predators and doves as symbol of peace. We think of snakes as being dangerous and doves as being harmless. How can they coexist? For the lion will lie down with the lamb, and a little child shall lead them, the prophet says. How can snake and dove be metaphors for individuals living in the kingdom of heaven? Wisdom speaks of intuitive knowing, of being able to discern when there is danger and where there is safety. Innocence speaks not of naivety or ignorance, but rather as the result of wisdom. If we are wise, we will be at peace with ourselves, even when everyone else is against us. We will be at peace because we know the truth that God is with us each and every moment of every day. fighting with us, digging with us, helping us live safely and healthily another day. And we will see that truth breaking out all around us every moment of every day, where the little things of life become the things that matter most. And while those things that seem to be the most quickly become the least. So be wise. Don't be stupid. Be wise. Make good choices. Be wise. Careful with who you hang out with. Be wise. Consider the impact of your decision not on today but on the future. Be wise and be innocent. Innocent so you don't get caught up in the latest trivial fad or trend. Be innocent. If you know it is wrong or you know it has little value, then don't do it. Be snake people and be dove people. The people who live in and model the reign of God. You see, it means something to be a follower of Jesus Christ. Amen.